What's up, chat? It's Monday morning, and we're getting, I don't know, Mactical? How's it going, everybody? This is going to be a new thing, maybe, that we're going to try out. We talked about it a little bit over the weekend and last week. I have not been doing Monday morning videos because people stopped watching them, and also they were really hard. But instead, what we might do, at least in the interim, and if it becomes a popular thing, then we'll do it maybe ad infinitum, is do a little bit of a Monday morning kind of meta recap, and basically do what we've been doing on Tactical Tuesday, where we talk about undefeated lists, in lieu of Best Armies in 40k videos, and instead do it on Monday morning, which is a little bit more relevant. What we're going to do on Tactical Tuesday, it's a great question. That's still happening, obviously. But what we might do is go through X and 1s, or maybe talk about some other new stuff. I'm not 100% sure. Methodical Monday. I called it in the video description. I called it This Weekend's Warhammer, which I thought was okay. Weekend in Warhammer is also cool. Another thing. I think that's another show people do. Like, Meta Monday is the classic, but that's obviously, that's a whole extra thing. We don't want to confuse people. So, I'm thinking Weekend in Warhammer, or This Weekend's Warhammer, or something like that. I don't know. We'll kind of, suss it out as we get through. So, we'll see how it goes. But this weekend has been a relatively big one for competitive events, because we've had, first of all, a lot of team tournaments. Team tournaments are absolutely exploding right now in popularity, and I think that it kind of feels like the future of competitive 40k is slowly morphing into a team format, which I'm sure that some people are ecstatic for, because I know that there are a lot of people who like these team events, but it's been crazy. The last couple of weeks have been dominated, absolutely dominated by team events, and I don't know. I'm here for it, I guess. It probably means I have to buy more cameras to do live coverage, but it it is what it is. My heart goes out to all the TOs who's got to run all these team events, but it's been crazy. Like last week, we had the Champions Cup, the FLG Champions Cup. That was enormous, and that was also basically about a third of the large competitive events that occurred last week were team events, and this basically the same thing happened this week. I mean, we had a bunch. These are some relatively smaller events: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 sort of big singles events, but then also 4 huge team events. I guess plus London GT, which is where most of the players who would be playing at team events were anyway. So to be fair, this weekend's a little bit weird, and we still had a super major level team event. Studs or Snotlings was 200 players. Something like 32 teams or something like that. 30 teams. Crazy. 8 camera setup for each player. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, I don't know what. We'll have to figure out a way to do it. So it depends on how many team events want me to come host them. I find team events very difficult to cover because there's so much more going into it. But I imagine that means the coverage is more valuable for people. So I don't know. We'll see how that ends up being. But yeah, that's what's going on this week. We have LGT and LGT Top Cut is happening right now, so we can talk about the results of the Invitational as well as the Top Cut. I think I have the LGT player pack right here. I was reviewing it this morning, and I think yesterday when I was putting this event together, I think I had the last year's packet and it was wrong. It was not correct, and I was like, "What is happening?" But I just reviewed this one, and I know what's going on now. So the LGT obviously was the big super major event of the weekend. It is, I think, essentially rivaling LVO champions in terms of playership. It was 830 players this year. Holy shit, that's huge. So that's I think where a lot of the attention is. currently that's live over on War Games Live, and I do want to give shout-outs to the people who are live streaming events this week. If anybody has any live streams that I don't catch, go ahead and throw them in the chat, please, so that we can give shout-outs to people. But obviously, War Games Live is live right now with the LGT top 8. I think we're up to the top 4 now. BCP is really struggling this week with all the players playing at that event. And there it goes. As well as Tabletop Live was live with that Stutter Snotling event that I just talked about. That was 200 players. So lots of live stream coverage went down this weekend as well, which is sick. But I think what I want to do is, because the LGT is like so impactful for this weekend, I think what I'd like to do is talk about or is take a quick peek at the top 8 lists and exactly what is doing well, because there is a little bit of spice. Now, the top cut on round 8, it looks like did we lose a player out of the top cut? That's unfortunate. Oh, maybe they pre-game dropped, actually. Yeah. Oh, so they had the Shadow Round in here. It looks like we had to play 2 Shadow Round games, I imagine is what this is. And then we went to top 8. But I think it looks like we lost a player pre-game. That's unfortunate. But we had some Adeptus Mechanicus undefeated. Liam Vissel is currently in the running for the number 1 placement. He won the LGT Invitational as well. That was on Thursday, I think, with... What did he win it with? I had it open. He won it with a Chaos Space Marine list. It looks like he's on Emperor's Children, Veterans of the Long War right now, which is super spicy. We actually talked about Veterans of the Long War last week, and I think maybe people are they've unlocked the power of this detachment, which is wild, because it seems like on the face of it, like it's not that interesting of a detachment, but it turns out Oaths of Moment is a hell of an ability. And when you also combine that with some reactive moves and some other like sort of weird disruption effects, you can make it work. Also, Liam Vissel's just the most incredible player ever. So, yeah. Team events allow lesser armies like Orks to get their time in the sun. That is true, for sure. I would say it is interesting and cool that there are armies that are very competitive in the team format that can like fulfill a role within a team environment that is not found anywhere else. The weird part about it is that a lot of times those armies then, like, it becomes a meta game of its own, and it becomes like less unique, you know what I mean? So it's less about like, oh, we can play like lesser played armies, and more about like, oh, who is your team's Tyranids player? Because every team needs a Tyranids player to sandbag whatever other matchup. So it is good that those armies get their show, and there's definitely more of an opportunity for armies to be able to showcase like unique archetypes, but to some extent, it also just sort of develops into its own thing, for sure. Demons player dropped due to work last night. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you would drop pre-game if you knew. I guess like maybe if it was a work thing, right? But if you knew you couldn't play, like why accept the top cut? Why not just give the game to a Shadowrun player? I don't know the specifics, though, chat. But let's talk about some stuff. So, some interesting factions in the breakdown, right? There's no Dark Angels. There's no Adeptus Sororitas, which is shocking. So, a lot of these like top armies that people are super worried about did not make this top cut. Now, to be fair, and one thing that we do have to talk about is the LGT format, and this tends to be the format for many UK events, tends to emphasize raw scores over everything to lock yourself into the top 8. Now, in an event this big, and they are running 9 rounds, and we did have a shadow round, it's probably going to be less of an issue than it is in many events with the same format. But what often happens in these events is that you get to the point where they they have more players than they can reasonably run rounds. So they end up going to a top cut, and that means that there are undefeated players that do not get to compete for the top of the game. Oh, it was Manny Cheema that had to drop? That's interesting, actually. Huh. Manny Cheema dropped out. Is that's wild. So what ends up happening is that it tends to sort of buoy up the players with these really high early round scores. Now, I don't think that's the case in this situation, because it does look like with the Shadow Round happening, they are playing all the undefeated players through. But that does occasionally occur. All right, let's go to our top 8 here. Can you show Joe on Wargames Live? Yeah, it's interesting. Let's actually take a look at Manny's list real quick. Let's go back to our Manny Cheema's placement here. 100 versus 74, Asher Militarum. So yeah, we can talk about his list. So he did go undefeated technically, but he did not end up playing top 8. Good to know that he's telling everyone all of his big wins. To be fair, current world champion, so deserved. He's rocking Demonic Incursion, which is obvious. That's the only detachment. He's got the Endless Gift Grid and Clean One, double Red Masters on Blood Thrones, plus Scarbrand and the Mask. This is already off to an interesting start. We don't have an Everstave guy. We don't have a Bellicor. We're just rocking some big boys. So the Mask of Slash is usually a little bit of a combo with the Grid and Clean One, because she could give you -1 to wound in melee, and then the Grid and Clean One can potentially be -1 to hit, but we're not bringing Nurglings today, and is just a big idiot, and is just impossible to remove in melee. The 2 Ren Masters on Blood Thrones, it looks like are buffing Blood Crushers today. So we are running just a billion Blood Crushers. It's so wild. They can stack their strength and AP and damage buffs, so we can get the Blood Crushers to damage 4, which is pretty good. Their strength is kind of mediocre, but at that point, they plink you with mortal wounds, and then any hit that goes through is probably going to convert unless you have an invuln save, and it does like 1 trillion damage. Scarbrand can also give them +1 attack as well, so you can sort of wombo combo these Blood Crushers out to basically kill anything in the game, if you really need them to. Or, obviously, the 6-man Blood Crusher units, because they do mortal wounds based on unit size, not based on models and engagement, they have the capacity to clear lots of, like, MSU. So if you're playing against these little small units of, like, 5 dudes, 6 Blood Crushers should, on average, do 6 mortal wounds in the charge. Kill 5 guys, then pile into the next unit. And if you're buffing your attacks into the second unit, which you get to choose after the charge impact mortals, because that happens start of fight phase, then even a couple Blood Crushers piling into something will probably kill it if it's a light unit. So they can act in multiple capacities in that way. And then we have 2 Fiends and Fleshhounds, so just like a ton of super fast, very dangerous utility. The Fiends are just like medium infantry blenders, which we kind of like. I guess the Blood Crushers are going to be used at a little bit more of a kind of an armor cracker capacity, and then the Fiends can come in here and trade for utility units. So like if you have 5 jump pack assault intercessors, you don't want to dedicate 6 Blood Crushers to kill them, so we have the Fiends in there too. The Fleshhounds are actually, I think, underplayed alongside the Red Masters, because if you have the Red Master buff active, if you have the Red Masters in the position to get it off, the Fleshhounds actually hit like basically as hard as some of these other units. They got a strength 6 AP 2 damage, which is with 15 attacks in the unit, which is actually like pretty dangerous. For 70 points, it's like a hell of a drug. And you can use them to clear like light and medium infantry as well. Orks just beat Tau. Okay, let's take a peek here. This is invitational games. We got to go to top cut. So we're down to, Orks in the winner of Alex Fowler versus Liam. Which is, I think they had currently on stream. When I went to go check this morning, that's what they were currently playing, which it looks early days. So we'll see how that one goes. Orks in the finals is actually super duper spicy. That is shocking. Oh my god. PCP is struggling so hard right now. Holy crap. All right, let's take a look at... I want to run through some of the other lists that did get an L before we jump into the ones that are in the top 4, because I think these lists are very interesting. And the fact that we see things like Adeptus Mechanicus, GC cults, I want to say Astra Militarum, but that's becoming less and less surprising, I think, the more the season goes on. Double Astra Militarum in the top 8, and I know people, there is a little bit of a discourse around the terrain situation, not that this is a situation, but just the terrain format in LGT events and UKTC events, where it tends to be a little bit more conducive to Astra Militarum shooting. But we'll see how things roll out. They did all go down. But that usually at the sort of level that you're talking about, once you make that sort of top 8, top 10 cut, it comes down to a lot of like very specific stuff. What mission you're in, whether you go first or second, specific decisions on the tabletop. Becomes a little RNG based once you get to the point where all of the players are basically equal skill level and playing armies that are equally powerful. Or equally optimized, I should say. Maybe not necessarily powerful. So, yeah, let's dive in. Let's talk about Innis's Genestealer Cult. I imagine he's still on Outlander Claw. We are on Outlander Claw, so we're on the Biker detachment today. Name of the list. Do you know what all this does? Probably not, is I think the answer. Triple Keller Morph, because they're incredible. Get a reactive move and a shoot in your opponent's turn. Amazing in response to enemy movement. A cartographic data leech with the Calamorph. That means that he's when embarks in a transport, he can give a transport he gives the transport +1 to hit. So if he jumps into either a rock grinder or a truck, whatever we're running today, it looks like we are running both rock grinders and trucks. He can go in alongside some neophytes or whatever and buff the vehicle's weapons. It's mostly a points filler, I think, because it's only 10 points. But it also does have some utility in the early game before the Calamorphs jump out. We have a Reductus Saboteur, 1 Auto Pistol Acolyte Hybrid unit, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Hand Flamer Acolyte Hybrid units. It's funny that the Hand Flamer is just such a consistent profile that in basically every edition of Genestealer Cults, Hand Flamer Acolyte Hybrids have been the thing to take. And in this case, now that they're getting wound rerolls targeting enemies and objectives, it just kind of goes even harder. We've then got double Neophyte Hybrids, double Goliath Trucks, 5 Achilles Ridge Runners. These guys, so these get the Outlander College Attachment benefit, so they double their OC. They don't get the objective secured. That's what the Adelan Jackals do, but it puts the Ridge Runners to OC 6. So a unit of 2 can put 12 OC onto an objective. And if there's a Jackal touching the objective, you obsec it. So you can get killed off of it and then sort of respawn elsewhere, and it's fine. But this list has sort of insane levels of objective control simply because it's using it has literal obsec on the Jackals, and it has literal high objective control characteristics thanks to these Ridge Runners, and also the Mass Acolytes, which are OC2. But then also it's using transport mechanics as well. So we have just a ton of transport capacity. Double Goliath Trucks is a 20 transport between those two, and then the Rock Grinders are another 15. So we can put almost all of the Hand Flamer Acolytes into transports, and then once they go down, you're doing the transport thing, where you're dropping 5 like OC2 idiots on the objective, probably out of line of sight. And you retain control of that objective, your unit's battle shocked, you go back to your turn, they unbattle shock, and then they hold it. So it's super duper tough to get a primary objective like leg up on this army, because you have to commit so hard into units that are generally trash. And then sort of overexposing to actually get rid of that stuff. A lot of it's going to respawn thanks to Cult Ambush, and then the Achilles Ridge Runners turn around. They get lethal hits, they get +1 AP, and they just they come in with these mining lasers. They're +1 to hit from +1 ballistic skill from spotters, and they just vaporize you. It's interesting. We do have a little bit more GSC to talk about, because GSC is, I think, a little bit on the rise. I think people have started to unlock the Codex, because Innis is not the only GSC player doing well this weekend. What did he lose to? We can take a peek at the pairings. He lost in the Shadow round, which is, I think, the secret round 7. He lost to Necrons. Andy Quas-Cohen. Looks like a relatively close game, 82-56. Not as close as True's game, though. Holy shit, 85-82. That is exactly one secondary draw apart. So he lost the Hypercrypt Legion. We'll talk about that list momentarily. It looks like it's just kind of... To triple Hexmark Destroyer as a beam. That's sick. It's just... it's the three... It's the Spider-Man meme of 3 Kellimorphs and 3 Hexmark Destroyers just like Spider-Manning each other. Except they Spider-Man with a bunch of different arms and all of the arms have pistols in them. Alright. Let's continue on. I want to talk about Adeptus Mechanicus for a moment. That list is really cool, by the way, chat. And I don't know. G0 Call, they just play super interestingly. And I think Acolyte Hybrids rule. I think that the takeaway is that Acolyte Hybrids are actually sick. And that people weren't necessarily like pushing them as hard as they could. And I wonder, too, if there's like I wonder if there's a push away from like hyper armor that we kind of saw early on, right? Where everyone's like on a bunch of Land Raiders and stuff. And it feels like mass 2+ saves would be problematic for a list like that. I think you could get around it for sure, but
Ahem. It's Man Speed Day.
Man Speed Day. More like Man Speedo, am I right? Ranji, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for the support all the time. I like it. I like you. You're great. Good job. But yeah, I think that there's mass hand flamers, like you could overload a 2+ save potentially, but I don't know if you could do it to the extent where you would kill something. And you have to like fall back on the mining lasers to actually like do the work there, and it gets a little problematic. And then like all the while you're being overwatched and stuff. But since that stuff has been reduced in power level. I wonder if we are now able to kill a lot of things just with like a mass AP0. You don't really care about cover if your opponent just doesn't have a good save to begin with. So Jonny Simmons over here, Adeptus Mechanicus, did go down in round 8 to Orks. Brian Seipp, who is going into the finals. We're taking a Skitarii Hunter cohort. How many guys do you think is in this list? How many mans? Cantic Thrallnet, Skitarii Marshal, and a Battlesphere Uplink Skitarii Marshal. So we have the Canticle, the double Canticle guy, and then Battlesphere Uplink for the Shoot and Scoot. A Tech Burst Manipulus, 1, 2 Rangers, 1, 2, 3 Vanguard. So it's only 50 duders. 2 Scorpius Dune Riders. One of them gets the Battlesphere Uplink guy, so he can jump in and out of that unit. A Cataphront Breacher team. This is Hunter cohort, which is an interesting place for a Breacher team to live. We do have a Tech Priest Manipulus to jump into that unit too, to buff it up. Triple Sky Stalkers, 1 Sterilizer unit. Double Infiltrators, and then the big Rust Stalker brick. So these, plus a trio of Iron Strider Ballistari. So we have a ton of utility. Obviously, we have lots of base infantry that are going to stand on the table and run around and do stuff. The triple Sky Stalkers gives you like an immense amount of mobility, and then you have like kind of a lot of counterpunch as well. The Sterilizers can sort of hang out until something comes in and that you're able to torch. And they're basically like the same profile as those Acolyte Hybrids, right? We're basically looking at kind of the same style of unit. The Rust Stalkers take up the second transport, typically, the one that the Battlesphere Uplink guy is not jumping into. And then they can sort of use the Disembark plus a move to threaten the center of the table and use that advanced charge to blow people up.
Is GSC Brainy Boy viable or the odd man out in list building?
I think that's the, what do they call it? The Benefictus? Is it his name? I think that he is okay, but I think right now the points cost is a little high for him. He's very fragile. He gets like a once per game invulnerable save, which seems kind of fine, but he's only 3 wounds. Yeah, the Benefictus. So he's only 3 wounds. He has an okay gun, a little bit low cover, but 12, 3, d6 plus 1 damage, ignore cover, like base is pretty good. He grants lethal hits, which is also okay if you're, I don't think he can double attach, but if you have a way to fish for lethal sustained in Ascension Host or something, it's like all right. And then he has this like weird shield effect. He can give himself a 4+ invulnerable save, but it's only for him. So it's like, okay. So he has, I would say, like largely a mediocre like leadership ability. His gun is good, but you're paying 80 points for a 3-wound dude with a good gun, and 80 points is a lot for that. So I would say he's like sort of decidedly mediocre. Is how it feels like to me. Not to mention the fact that 3 wounds with a weapon that you typically want to fire hazardous is like a little scary. Could lose 80 points on the roll of a 1, and that feels bad if you're firing your hazardous weapon. So I would love him if he was 4 wounds, or if he could 4+ invul in his unit, or even like once per game 5+ invul in like 20 neophyte hybrids. Like that's something, right? But it feels like he's one click of the dial to the left, but we want to be one more to the right to make him better. Just looking at his data sheet is how it feels. I think we've seen some lists with Beneficti in them, but I don't know if he's very common at the sort of the top level. Wish I had a Benefictus in my life. I wish I had a. Can we call him like Sugar Daddy? He's just granting benefictions to everyone. What a weird name. Weird unit name. Yeah, so anyway, Hunter cohort stuff. The Cataphront Breachers is definitely an interesting inclusion. So between them and the Iron Strider Ballistari, we have like double like big anti-vehicle units in the list. So we're not really just relying on like hoping that our arc rifles convert and throwing grenades at people from Taraxi, but we also do have this anti-vehicle. It is a heavy arc rifle unit, so we are just like just trying to grab vehicles, pull vehicles down to 3 damage anti-vehicle, which I don't know, seems not too bad. It's definitely not the best thing in the world, especially outside of Radzone core, but it's probably good enough that I think we can make it do it. The Benethicti. That's the GSC got some thick models. I don't know if the Benefictus is one of them, but yeah, maybe. But if you've got a brain that big, you got to do some squats to support yourself. You know what I mean? The 4+ invul for himself is so random. Yeah, it's like, who's that protecting? Is that gonna save you? Probably not. A Canoness gives your unit full rerolls, gets like insane weapons, and a once per game 2+ invul with miracle dice, but that guy's got a 4+. Okay, man. Whatever you say, dude. Those are definitely the same thing. It could have been a 2+ for himself, and I think it probably would have been a little bit more reasonable. But it's definitely kind of, I don't know. It feels like they've hedged their bets on him quite a bit, because I think that they don't want to do is create a situation like the Reductus Saboteur, where they create this unit that just has every ability, and then suddenly it's in 3 of them are in every list, and you never escape it, right? You had at the start of the edition, you had GSC armies giving up like 40 points on assassination. They would just be like, I have 13 characters. You're like, okay, why did we make these 30 points and also have like explosives and mortal wounds and a good gun? I don't know. All right, so let's talk about some freaking Astra Militarum here today. Fouchini did go down 76-82 to Tau Empire, but he was rocking the Militarum. And Andy Quas-Cohen with us, that Necron Hypercrypt we just took a peek at, did also go down to Liam Bissell. 82-83. Are you kidding me? The scores on these games are insane, dude. So Fouchini over here is rocking Lord Solar Leontis, a Tempestus Command Squad, a Standard Platoon Squad, and a Tank Commander. Grand Strategist Tank Commander. So we are going to see some tank action. So I imagine Lord Solar Leontis is largely going to be tasked with buffing up some Bulgrin. He is also going to be ordering the Tank Commander And then the tank commander is going to probably supercharging some Rogal Dorns, I imagine. We have Acadian Shock Trooper Squad. 2 I'm struggling. Catachan Jungle Fighters, Jesus Christ. Plus a Death Corps of Krieg. Death Corps of Krieg is probably just there for Lord Solar and the Platoon Command Squad. I think it's that there is a weird attachment idiosyncrasy, which is that I think platoon commands can't go into Cadian squads. Is that the thing? I'm gonna double check here. Because Cadian squads can't attach one piece of like the Wombo combo, and I can't remember which one it is. Yeah, it's the platoon command squad. So you can't. And if you see a National Militarum player do this, just give him a little slap, you box the ears. No, don't do that. That bursts people's eardrums. That's permanent damage. You don't want to do that. But maybe just like a little finger wag. A little finger wag is good. The Platoon Command Squad Lord Solar Leontis combo doesn't work on Cadian Shock Troopers, which feels like it would be really good because you get to obsec your home objective and then just fuck off and leave. And then use like navigators or trash to screen it and never touch it again, so you don't have to give up like weird secondaries on it, which I think happens quite a bit. But they just can't join. The platoon squad doesn't know how to join a Cadian squad. There is a Cadian command squad, I guess, so you could take that specifically. But I think they're cost more, so you have to pay more to unlock the version with the Cadians. Is there an issue with Lord Solar joining it? I imagine there's not, right? No, he can jump in. Yeah, so you could do it with a Cadian command squad specifically. But I don't know if you lose any piece of the combo. You still have a Master Box and a Med Pack, so it's like it's like mostly the same. It's just more expensive to take the Cadian version. Plus, you're also upcharging for Cadians too, so you're paying like 10 to 15 points extra. Kind of idiosyncratic, but it is important to note. I definitely made a mistake and made a Militarum list work like that, and then got wrecked with it. Oh, I can't run the mortar. That's it. Yeah, the Cadians also don't have the mortar. That's the other big one. So if you have the Ursula Creed combo, otherwise it doesn't really matter unless you're suppressive and firing people, which is always good. Like, it's just having the mortar is like just good. But you don't. It's maybe not the biggest deal ever. Yeah, also Fields of Fire. Red Dimensional Attaches or a Navigator? I think it's for sure the Navigator. The Attaches require them to be joined into a platoon command squad, so they're like locked in on your stupid like big brick, and then as soon as you have an Omni Scrambler aura that's attached to a unit, you're already screening with the unit, so you almost might as well just have them in the place that you would be screening anyway. If the Omni Scrambler aura is independent, that's when it gets really powerful. But if it's tied to a unit, it gets weird. And the Regimental Attaches, I believe, have to be attached in, otherwise they kill themselves. As soon as their command squad disappears, they just like commit seppuku, I guess. They don't want to live on this planet anymore. All right, so we have the Cadian Shock Troopers, we have the Catachan Jungle Fighters, we have the Death Corps of Krieg. We have a Chimera to pregame move with the Catachan Jungle Fighters. Here's the Bulgrin for Lord Solar Leontis to tell what to do. To boss around, triple Bulgrin squads, 18 Bulgrin, double Hellhounds, which actually feels pretty interesting because I feel like we have not seen Hellhounds in a little while, which is wild because Hellhounds are insane. We're rocking Inferno Cannons and Multi-Meltas. The Inferno Cannon is, I believe, I believe it's a Melta cannon is their big anti-tank gun. The Inferno Cannon, I think, is just their huge flamer. I'm going to double check, though, so I don't misspeak. Yeah, the Inferno Cannon is their big flamer. The Melta Cannon is their Melta Lance equivalent. So the addition of the multi-melta there, they're also squadron units, I believe. Yep. You always have to check with Astro Militarum because they're always so weird. So they get lethal hits with the multi-melta, which is good. Here it is. It means they're operating effectively out to 18-inch range. And the Inferno Cannon gives you a pretty solid overwatch, good sort of light infantry clear, and it also removes cover from people. The downside is, like, I wish they got good the hunter killer missiles, because then you could cover off people with the hunter killer missile shot, which would be nice, but it's a little inconsistent on a 4+, unless you're giving them +1 to hit, which is a little bit awkward. But that also gives you another outlet for the tank commander's orders, so you can buff the multi-meltas for +1 to hit too if you need to, and then put that hunter killer missile to hitting on 3s. Otherwise, the Hellhounds get basically no benefit from the tank commander orders anyway, outside of getting additional movement. And then we're rocking two Lumen Rust battle tanks. We don't have any exterminators, interestingly. But we can get AP1 ignore cover, and you can overlapping fields to get to AP2, although we don't have Ursula Creed, so we're just paying the full price for that overlapping fields. And that gets the Lumen Rust, the battle cannon up to equivalent of AP3. It's AP2 ignoring cover. Plus plasma cannons on those guys as well, so we are just mass blast for infantry clearing. And I think that that's kind of the platonic ideal. The downside of the other Lumen Rust variants is that they're like super inconsistent, and the Lumen Rust battle tank can just fish for lethal hits if it's ever firing into stuff that its battle cannon isn't naturally good at shooting. But otherwise, in other situations, it's a very consistent damage output, especially against sort of light to medium infantry. And then we have a big Tempestus Scion squad. So we have the big 10 Tempestus Scions plus the command squad. So we just get that huge brick of hit re-rolling like idiots who can jump in and just vaporize an entire objective. Which is, as we watched actually in the T5S2 finals recently, the GT finals, we watched Kogo's Tempestus Scion squad come in and just rip 20 models off the table right as it jumped down. It turns out the ability to like fish for sustained lethal with +1 attack is really strong. Especially if you can source a second order on those guys and you have a Tempester command rod, although I think we usually just bring the pistol with that guy. I know we are running the command rod just in case. That's cool. The extra plasma pistol shot from the Tempester Prime is nice, but you don't usually need it. And the command rod gives you that opportunity to also get +1 to hit, which then gives you a great opportunity to just get huge amounts of additional benefits elsewhere. You can also just like put utility orders on them. You can take cover. You can do Neon Honor for +1 OC on top of getting +1 to hit already, which is like pretty nice. Seems good, chat. Yeah, the other thing is that yeah, the Hellhound is a 2+ save. Yeah, they're just kind of annoying to kill. It's like it's a wild profile, to be honest. And I think, and I don't know, like I think the big downside of them is that they're basically dedicated infantry sweepers, right? They only do the one thing, which normally in 40k would be a little bit of a bonus, but clearing infantry isn't like generally what Militarum struggle with. It's kind of like punching through invulnerable saves feels like sort of the tough part for them. They can put enough multi-melta and battle cannon shots downrange that they'll kill you eventually. But if you're sitting on a 4-up, things get really spicy. But Hellhound's giving them like an additional attack activation plus a really tough just like utility unit. They're also really small. They're just on a Chimera chassis, and in contrast to Leman Russ and Rogaldorns, they actually fit into a lot of places that you wouldn't really expect them to. And it's just a useful unit to have for 115 points for a relatively resilient profile that also kills infantry and can, like, you know, support the rest of the team tangentially. It's just really good, for sure. No, Iron Dad Strachan. List is 0 out of 10. Strachan would be unironically good in this list, too. An extra 2 infantry orders is, like, pretty sweet. You can also do funny stuff, too. Like, you can put him into the Chimera separate from the jungle fighters, and then you can use him to source the second order onto the Tempestus Scions when they drop. That's the capacity in which I used him. So if you drop the Scions anywhere near Strachan, then he can order them for like +1 to hit and +1 attack. And then they're in their full reroll, they hit on 2s. And you actually source like 6 extra hits out of the unit, basically. And then he just like goes in and trucks an entire unit of Space Marines or something. Strachan is like, it's so insane. I guess the other downside of Strachan in this like situation is that he does open you to fixed secondaries. Because you have 4 characters already. And, like, let's be real. The tank commander and the Tempestus command squad are kind of, like, in danger all the time. And an aggressive Strachan would also die. And that puts you in a position where your opponent could maybe, if they can source another fixed secondary, they could maybe take Assassination and score fairly highly on it. Although, if they've gotten into the Lord Solar Leontis squad, I feel like the game's over already. So, maybe it's fine. Also, fixed secondaries do feel like a little bit of a trap in Pariah Nexus, but there are some factions that still want to play them. Now, we can contrast that one, and this will be an interesting discussion to have, I think. Because True... also played Astra Militarum, lost by 3 points here. And was his list the same? It was not. We already have Gaunt's Ghost, so we're already playing a little bit of a different list. We have Tempestus Command Squad, Tank Commander, no Grand Strategist on the Tank Commander, Gaunt's Ghost, and Lord Solar Leontis. So, no Platoon Command. We just don't have a Master Vox for Leontis. Fuck it. You know what? He's gonna be in 6 inches of my guys anyway. That man doesn't need a radio. He's got those operatic lungs. He'll just shout the orders. Incredible. All right, fair enough. Cadian Shock Trooper Squad, double Catachy Juggle Fighters, triple Bulgrin, a Rapier Laser Destroyer Battery, a little bit of a nice little utility guy. 5 Tempestus Scions, 10 Tempestus Scions, 1 Hellhound, 1 Lieben Russ, a Scout Sentinel unit, triple Scout Sentinel. So we got a lot of forward operation that then can revive once per game and get its Hunter Killers back. And we have multiple sources of orders for it. It's interesting that we are not running the Grand Strategist on the Tank Commander. I guess the idea, theoretically, is that Lord Solar, if he's operating independently, he's kind of maneuverable because he's relatively fast and he's not a vehicle. So he can move through the other vehicles because he's just mounted. And he's not the easiest thing in the world to kill. He's like 8 wounds with a 4+ invuln. He will go down with dedicated shooting, but if he's sitting on the back of your table edge, you don't really care that much about him. And so theoretically, he can just be within 6 inches of the tanks. And then the tank commander can actually be ordering the Scout Sentinels. So if he's just like partying around with the tanks, you don't necessarily like lose that last order. Not to mention the fact that the Bulgrins only really need to be in range of him 1 turn. Because oftentimes they just like use it for +1 to hit or plus movement, and then they run to the middle and then they explode. They just take so long to kill that the rest of your army usually survives that turn. And then we have 2 Chimeras for the Jungle Fighters to jump into. So we're playing a little bit more aggressively this time. This triple Scout Sentinel is a trip. I love it. It's so cool. Plus the 15 Tempestus Scions is huge. No Iron Hand Strachan though, chat. Sad. Sad. All right, let's jump into... Oh, shoot. Did I close my window? I did. Gotta go find it again. Let's jump into this Necron list. So Andy Quas-Cohen did go down to the Abyssal by 1 point. These scores, dude. Jesus. Although, to be fair, this is a win-loss situation, so it might have literally just been there, like, on round 5, I can outscore you by 1. Do you want me to roll it out? Or, like, do you want to play it out, buddy? I have the win on the table. Magnus just went down in Liam's game. Oh, boy. What? What did he die to? Give me the skinny. I actually wasn't sure what the timing was on the top 4. It's kind of interesting to be talking about the lists as the games are going on. The Gloctopus is back, chat. This is the full 24 limbs. We're taking all 24 of them. He died to Fabulous Bill? What? I guess, is he in a unit or is he just chilling? Fabius does have, he has like his stick is devastating wounds, right? So he does have like a little bit of punching power. Why can't I find his data sheet? I found it. Oh, it's not devastating. It is. You did it. Am I an insane person? Didn't it used to do mortal wounds on like 6s? I think that was a 9th edition rule. Because it was the Rod of Torment, and you would like freak out. I guess I'm a silly goose, chat. In shooting? What? The strength 2 AP 1. It's too strong. That's insanity. That's an insane thing that happened. I'm like driven out. I thought Fabius was a mortal wound like Firehouse. I thought that used to be his mechanical identity. Oh no, I think I'm an insane person. Yeah, I think I'm just an absolutely insane human being who conflated anti-infantry 2 with devastating. But he didn't do that. Yeah, Fabius Bile is super good. 6 attacks at 3 damage. 3 damage, Jesus. The AP 1 like is a little sad. We are running veterans. So he doesn't have the extra AP bonus from that other detachment that everyone plays, Renegade Raiders. Jesus Christ. AP 5, 2, 3 damage. Like 6, 5, 2, 3 is nuts actually. Plus he has 2 extra attacks. He has 8 attacks. And 1 extra if his little guy is still around. Is the Surgeon's Acolyte, is that a separate model? Does he die if you use his ability? I guess he doesn't, huh? No, because it's a once per turn. It's not a once per game. So he also theoretically gets 1 extra attack from the little guy, although that attack is trash, so who cares? Bottom of 4, 1,000 Suns don't have a single unit not in melee. It might be a wrap. Like, sounds like literally a wrap because you are wrapping their army. Yeah, that seems super bad. Also, if Magnus dies before like round 5, I think the game might just like you might as well just like call it. That's sort of over. 1 Demon Prince. The 1 unit that you would want to be in melee is not. That's insane. I gotta go watch that game back. It's well, that sounds like it's super nuts. But anyway, let's talk about some Necrons here, chat. We can talk about the 1,000 Suns, assuming that depending on the result of that game. Andy Quas-Cohen rocking a Hypercrypt Legion, the triple Gloctopus, 3 Hexmark Destroyers, a Catan Shot of the Nightbringer plus the Silent King. We're also running double Doomsday Arc and a Tesseract Vault. Fuck yeah, dude. Locust Heavy Destroyer, 1 Standard Locust Destroyer, 1 Deathmark unit for Deep Strike, and a Canoptic Spider. So the Canoptic Spider buffs up the Tesseract Vault with the 6 Feel No Pain, and theoretically also the Doomsday Arcs. As we learned on stream the other day, by the way, chat. So we actually, I think I streamed almost literally this list. It did not have the Hex Marks. It had additional Catan Shards, but it was Doomsday Arc, Tesseract Vault, and Silent King at Crucible. As we learned in that event, the Canoptic Spiders and the Silent King are weird because they are non-walker vehicles. So they don't really operate like normal units because they're like, you imagine that they're mechanically identical to like a Rhino. They can't heroically intervene. They can't do a bunch of stuff. But you can tank shock with them, which is kind of cute. But you can basically just like pick up the spider and have it follow around the big Tesseract vault and give it a 6+ invulnerable, 6+ feel no pain. And this thing is just a huge tank plus a damage fire hose. But I'm kind of like excited to see that we're on the battleship. The battleship composition for Hypercrypt Legion, because that was always my favorite capacity to play the detachment in. You could rock like the big monsters and stuff, but now you can't Cosmic Precision them. It's not quite as exciting. But what you can do is just constantly have Doomsday Arcs be in line of sight of your target. The downside of Doomsday Arcs is that they're super annoying to move around. The pivot rules have definitely helped because they don't have to pay like 1,000 inches of movement to actually rotate themselves. They just have to pay 2. But the fact that they can constantly be strategic reserving around the corners makes them super difficult to dodge. They're getting potential hit rerolls off the Silent King, and then your opponent has to choose between attacking the Doomsday Arcs that are shooting their army to death and actually killing the Tesseract Vault. The Tesseract Vault's just like annihilating them if you don't. You can see how Innis had trouble bringing that down with GSC. Yeah, it's also like there's some pretty useful interactions. I don't believe that the Keller morphs have a positive interaction with like deep striking, which is one of the big ways that the that Outlander Claw keeps sort of aggression off of itself. You can use Keller morphs, so they have this ability, the hypersensory abilities. When an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move within 12, you can shoot them, and then when you shoot, you move up to D6 inches. You just can't go back into transport, but what you can do is like you can use that to manipulate the board presence, the board state during your opponent's movement. So like one unit moves, eats a devastating wound shot from the auto pistols, and then this guy moves in front of the second unit, so the second unit then like can't move, like maneuver around. But if this Necron army is simply just you also get reactive moves off of I want to say the Ridge Runners get it in Outlander, the Ridge Runners and Adel and Jackals. It might be any vehicle actually. It is Ridge Runners or Adel and Jackals also get a 6-inch reactive move theoretically. So you have this like a ton of these reactive abilities that all trigger off ending movements, and one of the most classic ways to get around those is just fucking deep strike there. So if you like, hey, here, I'm gonna Cosmic Precision and I'm gonna put these like this big Tesseract Vault next to you, and the GSC player's like, well, I was supposed to reactive move and prevent that, but I can't. So oh no, and then the Tesseract Vault is like ×0 and just one shots a character right out of the gate. Plus, they also have the Tesla Spheres, which are really good into GSE profiles. Like, there are just some weird, I think, statistical mismatches in that one between those two. Man, Necron? Hypercrypt Legion's so cool. Vets versus Warhorde Orks in the LGT finals. Dude, that's so sick. Thousand Sons went down. Sisters went down. Maybe the game is fixed, chat. Veterans of the Long War can win LGT. Maybe the game has been repaired. Oh, yeah, you're not wrong about the Galactopus too, chat. Yeah, that's a good call out. Is that you also have 3 Hexmark Destroyers. They're just like, hey, buddy, I'm going to Cosmic Precision your backline. I'm going to kill 5 Acolyte Hybrids and then kill the second 5 Acolyte Hybrids when you come to kill me. Sorry. Boop, 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 boop. Hexmark Destroyers are also cool. Man, this makes me want to play Necrons. Fuck. This list looks so tech, and I love it. I love Doomsday Arcs. I love Tesseract Vaults. You'd have to actually play a Tesseract Vault, though, and that makes me weep. They're so big. They're so big! I also wonder... I'm actually kind of interested. We discussed the UKTC terrain a second ago. I wonder if they have started to adopt kind of the more classic terrain. This actually does look very like Pariah Nexus GW coded. So maybe reports of like shootings superpower has been exaggerated. Yeah, this doesn't look too bad from some of the sort of more standard UKTC excuse me, USO layouts. Because if there is like sort of a problem, I guess, with like big lines of sight, then you could definitely see that a Necron Hypercrypt would have a field day with Doomsday Arcs. There are some like interesting spots where like you can jump back here and you get like a clean line into like half your opponent's deployment zone, but that's just sweeping clear. It is actually Emperor's Children. Yeah, there's like no reason not to register as Emperor's Children, right? If all you're bringing, the only epic hero you're taking is Fabulous Bill. I guess it restricts your demonic access, but you can like use it to flex on people. Hey, I wasn't taking Nurglings anyway, but I also, just in case, I restricted my ability to ever include Nurglings in my army. All right, let's move on. Lewis Smith over here with Tau Empire, rocking a Calyon. I think that is Monka over, chat. It's not Vesh's a Long War winning LGT. It's Liam Bissell winning LGT. Not wrong. Who's the GOAT, chat? Is it John Lennon or is it Liam Bissell? I guess like you could throw Manny Cheema in there too. We gotta. That would be a battle of the centuries. We get a knockdown drag out fight between those two. That'd be sick. All right. Talk about some frickin' Calyon. So, yeah, we're on Calyon today, which feels to me to be so powerful compared to Monka. I feel like with the amount of Monka that we've seen getting played, it seemed so good at the start of after the Codex released. But it feels like people have just really dropped off on that because it's all either Retaliation Cadre or it's Calyon these days. And I guess there is some Kroot hunting back, like going around too in the waiting in the wings there. We have an exemplar of the Calyon Cadre Fireblade, a standard non-exemplar Cadre Fireblade. This guy's like so crazy powerful though. Like this is the reason I think the detachment's so strong, is because you can give them reroll ones to hit. You can spot for them, so you have Shadow Sun to give reroll ones. You also probably have Stealth Suits to give reroll ones, and then you have Shadow Sun, or you have you're spawning for +1 to hit as well. So, and then you're sustaining 2 on Battle Run 2 onwards. So the unit of Breachers that's shooting like 40-ish times. The Fireblade shoots 9 by himself, right? Because he's got 2 gun drones plus his own gun, and then the rest of the units shooting probably another 30 plus a gun drone. So 30, like you're shooting 42 times, and you should get approximately like I think you should hit 130% or so. I don't think that math is quite correct, but it's somewhere around there. So you should be shooting 40 times and getting somewhere in the realm of like 50 to 60 hits. And then those are all full rerolls, ignore cover. Like full wound rerolls. Like the damage for this one fucking unit is just so nuts. And that you don't get that unit anywhere else. The unit is like actively anti-synergistic in Monka because you are getting wound rerolls but then giving yourself lethal hits, which is just not as useful. Especially a unit that wants to shoot at like medium guys that they're winning on 3s, just like getting a sustained hits versus lethal when you're rerolling wounds is just so much more valuable. It's like incredible. Oh, Liam's actually running Noise Marines too. The Noise Marine Blastmaster is such a Chad profile for sure. For sure. As someone who has reps with Monka, I listen to have to contend with Bringers of the Flame and Thousand Suns, which are way more prevalent. Yeah, I guess that is also sort of the case, right? The big benefit of Monka is just like the nuts alpha strike you get, But the problem is that everyone's teching for Alpha Strikes because Breakers of the Flame has made them super dumb. Yeah, for sure. So the 2 Breacher teams, 2 Devilfish for the Breacher teams to go into. We'll rock this one out, and then we'll talk about Liambus's list because it sounds like that's where the discussion is. But I want a complete discussion on these guys. A Starsight Battlesuit team. Interestingly, we're rocking Flamers, but that gives you good infantry clear in the late game. So, like, the problem is, or in the early game. So, like, the downside is if you get rushed really early, you don't really have any good, like, sweepers, because you don't want to deliver the Breachers before round 3, or round 2 in the case of the Exemplar guy. So we have a Ghost Kill Battlesuit that can sort of, like, bully the midboard, plus a Starsight Battlesuit team. So hopefully we can keep, like, an early game aggression off. I imagine there's a Piranha, probably Triple Stealth Suit. Triple Stealth, oh, there's a Tiger Shark. Oh my god! We act this, bro. I just post nerf Tiger Shark. Fuck yeah, dude. A Pathfinder team, so we have a lot of forward operation as well. So you can hopefully keep enemies off you early. And then a Tiger Shark. Okay. 3 Riptide Battlesuits with Ion Accelerators. The downside here is that we get the sustained hits is like kind of mediocre on the Riptides. It's not bad for sure. Because you get, like, sustain 2 on a big 4 damage gun is good, but the problem is that their strength is really low, so the lethal hits was huge for the Riptides. That is the one unit that, and probably also to a lesser extent the Ghost Kill Battlesuit, those are the units that do feel like they are meaningfully worse in, or I would say, like, different. I don't want to say, like, significantly bad or anything, but they definitely do miss the lethal hits in favor of the sustained. Between the Bankai and the Kalyan detachment abilities. But then we have the Tiger Shark. I have a whole video on this fucking thing, by the way, chat. The Tiger Shark now has to drop and not do anything. It has to drop and not do anything, but the secret technology, this one trick that doctors hate, is that if you rapid ingress it, it has to take the turn off, but it's your opponent's turn, so who cares? Like, oh, I can't shoot on my opponent's turn with this thing I wasn't going to shoot with anyway. The other downside is that with the nerfs, it has to always, which I believe was already the case, it has to always come in off your table edge, which, to be fair, if you're rapid ingressing it, you're going to do anyway, because you're just going to place it on the table edge, you're going to be out of range of most of your opponent's anti-tank shooting, and then you're just going to activate it, and it's going to move and get wherever it wants, because it's an airplane. The Tiger Shark datasheet, you can watch my datasheet deep dive on it, which mostly still holds up, because all of the combos are still active. It's just that the deployment of this thing is a little bit tougher because it, for whatever, it doesn't have like that weird exemption from all the core rules like it had previously for no reason. But this thing is, it's a ludicrous amount of damage. He's running ion cannons on it, which is a little interesting. Oh, I'm on the AX10 profile. I was like, what am I doing? What am I looking at right now? Why is this not match? So he is running ion cannons on it. So he's firing 2d6 plus 6, 3 damage blast attacks, rather than the swift strike railguns. I think these are, like, kind of unnecessary, to be fair. They do just, like, sort of a ludicrous amount of damage that overkills whatever you're shooting at. But the amount of damage you're doing is pretty wild anyway. The railguns, I think, definitely get the biggest benefit from sustained, because obviously you can like getting a sustain 2 on a railgun just automatically kills whatever you're shooting at rather than making it dicey. But they are at a base level way less consistent because you're only shooting 2 times rather than a billion times. So we're basically just like firing a volume of like kind of mid-strength, mid-AP shooting, which is totally fine. The other big benefit here, and to be honest, the real reason that we're like the real source of damage from these is their Seeker missile racks. They have 6 Seeker missiles. So while it only happens once per game, they do get this huge boost of damage as soon as they arrive. So you ingress them, move, and then 6 Seeker Missiles. If you ingress bottom 2, so they're moving top 3, then they're benefiting from Kauyon. You're giving them reroll once they hit from a stealth suit, almost assuredly. The other benefit that Kauyon has is that you can use the redeployment, the uppy downy, for what's the stratagem called? It's the new one from the Codex, to redeploy stealth battle suits. So you can get stealth battle suits basically anywhere you need them to on round 3. It's got a cool name. Wall of Mirrors. Ooh, I was behind you the whole time. What? Oh no. And then these guys, they don't deep strike, but if you are round 3, they can just come in off your opponent's table edge. So they can give you line of sight to anywhere, and then they can guide for the Tiger Shark basically regardless of where it's setting up. And then this thing's firing 6 Seeker Missiles with sustain 2 and reroll ones to hit and wound on something and ignore cover. And that's probably good enough to just like kill literally anything you're shooting at. So they get one thing for free basically, and then they have to roll out their ion cannons, which probably kill something, but it is a little bit more dicey because you can just bounce if you don't roll good wound rolls. But yeah, 6 Seeker Missiles. They have 6 of them, and they can fire them all at once. It's insane. They average doing like 40 damage to a Land Raider. Nani? Like Commander Shadow Sun, like Omayu Shindaru is like behind you. You're already been multi-belted in the butt. Wall of Mirrors makes you think of a kid running into a wall in a mirror house? Yeah. You just consider yourself -1 CP to play the Tiger Shark for sure. Yeah. Which I think is probably fine. I don't know how often, like how much Kauyon spends early game. And you also have Shadow Sun, so you have CP regen baked in too. Like Tempting Trap is good. +1 EP is good. Coordinate to Engage is good. I don't know. Photon Grenade also good. But like none of these are like super like insane, right? You're not like, oh man, if I don't use Point Blank Ambush this round, I'm gonna die. Because you can't use most of them anyway. So you probably have the CP to play the Tiger Shark regardless. They definitely... This thing feels like super powerful still, but I think it's definitely a 0 to 1. Now I want to play Tau too. Man, all these armies seem cool. Fucking Kauyon Tau. You love to see it. You love to see it, chat. This list is kind of rad, honestly. I do have all these Tau right here. I got a Riptide sitting on my shelf. He's ready to go. All right, champ. Should we talk about some friggin' veterans of the Emperor's Children? What is going on with Liam Bissell's list over here? What is the deal with these veterans of the Long War? We talked about some veterans of the Long War last week, which means I remember that, for example, War Master's Gift gives you critical wounds on a 5+, not hits, which I misspoke, and you all corrected me, which I appreciate. We are running Huron Blackheart. You can take him at Emperor's Children. Okay. He gives you redeployments, is that right? Huron Blackheart gives you +1 OC. Up to 3 Heritage Custodes infantry units can be redeployed after deploying armies. And then you get a once per game reactive move. He has 10 attacks. 10 Strength 4 sweep attacks. So this dude is just like an infantry blender. Jesus Christ. Because you can get sustained or lethal hits on those as well. Or he's swinging 6 2 damage, which is also fine. He's a Strength 6 Heavy Flamer also. And he's getting wound rerolls if he's in a Legionnaire squad. 10 attacks. on a sweep. Jesus. That's actually really good. What? Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of attacking. We got Cypher in there, but the weird thing is you can take him in for children. But I guess he is literally just undivided keyword. He doesn't have a Legion affiliation, which I guess doesn't really matter in this codex anyway, because they don't have those. So, all right, fair enough. I guess it's just an Emperor's Children here on Blackheart. Let's go. A Chaos Lord with War Master's Gift, so he has the 5-up Devastating Wounds of the Demon Hammer. Cypher, Fabius Bill, we talked about in extensively already. He's a 3 damage melee weapon, as we have just learned. Kind of insane. Plus Lucius the Eternal as well. We can take a peek at Lucius the Eternal also, because he's very important for Emperor's Children. He, in fact, must be included. I think must be your army's warlord, too, is how Emperor's Children works. It gives you fight first, but mostly he's just there because he hits really hard. He's strength 5, AP 2, 2 damage, 8 attacks. He was already kind of like, I think, fringe playable. He also he's another character with another heavy flamer profile, which is also pretty good. He gives you fight first, too, so he's a good like heroic intervener. He's a little expensive, but that's kind of the only downside, I think. He's just another kind of beatstick character who's really good at like just beating the crap out of like equivalent infantry. Pretty good stuff. We have a cultist mob, 1, 2 units of legionaries, 2 units of noisy boys. With the Blastmaster, yeah, we sort of mentioned earlier how strong the Blastmaster unit was, and this is that is like unironically, are Noise Marines in here? Let's look. It's sort of unironically the benefit of playing Emperor's Children is that you get access to these guys because nobody else does. But mostly they are, and I'm interested to see what the loadouts are. It looks like we are just taking regular ass Sonic Blasters. You can also switch them for Chain Swords, so you can make them more melee focused, but mostly we're shooting at them. The Sonic Blaster is kind of whatever. It's like 24 inch, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. It's an assault weapon, which is cool, but the big thing is that the Blastmaster is what you're going for. And this is interestingly kind of always been Noise Marine's identity. There was, I think, a period in 8th edition when you took them to buff the mass Sonic Blaster shooting, but the Blastmasters were always the exciting part. And the big thing is that they have that heavy profile, strength 9, AP 2, 3 damage, and you always have access to Dark Pacts. So you're like, strength 9's pretty good, but also it's either lethal or sustained. So based on what you're shooting at, it's actually like kind of a nuts amount of damage. And you can mass battle shock people with their ability as well. 1 unit takes a battle shock test and it's not keyword restricted. And with 2 units of Noise Marines, you can be doing that twice. So there's a pretty reasonable chance you actually do end up causing someone to fail. Oh, it's with a Legion, and that's probably what I didn't do. Because there's only one of them. Give this army a codex, GW. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. It's been so long. Everyone else has codexes. Except for them. Nobody likes Slanesh, I guess. But yeah, the Blastmaster profile is the real highlight. We have double Chaos Rhinos, double Predator Destructors, 2 Chosen units. I assume that the characters can jump into Chosen. I don't know if leashes can. That's actually an interesting question. No, Legionaries and Noise Marines. So one of them is almost certainly just for Huron, I guess. Who, I guess I should double check if he can join Chosen, but it would be weird if he couldn't. Yeah, he's okay. So he'll jump into the Chosen unit. He gives them the reactive move. And then you also have the reactive move from the detachment ability too. And then they give him advance and charge, so you can be really aggressive and then also like mess with your opponent's movement during their turn. And then 2 units of Obliterators as well. Plus 2 Predator Destructors. interestingly, Veterans doesn't have a source of, unless I'm crazy, maybe. It doesn't have a source of AP, right? It has an Armor of Contempt. It is devastating on its bolters. But you can get ignore cover on anything you want. Okay. So it is a lot of like AP1, but you can theoretically be shooting through cover, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. You also get, I guess, interestingly too, you can get ignore cover and you can auto 6 your torrent weapons, and we do have those 2 heavy flamers, which is kind of cute. a little baby synergy in there, and I think that the Noise Marine champions also have a Doom Siren? I can't find the stupid datasheet. They do, it looks like. Yeah, the champion gets a Doom Siren. So you can get 2d6 heavy flamer shots that auto 6 their attacks out of the these guys. So you can theoretically pay 1 for Lucius's unit to fire 12 strength 6 AP 1 shots. And then you also get ignore cover on your Blastmaster and your Sonic Blasters. That's actually like sick value. Can't remember how hyped seeing GW releasing an Emperor's Children Index. Dude, same. I was like, oh cool, we're gonna get some new rules. Maybe we'll get a detachment ability. No. You're just weird Chaos Space Marines. Oh, okay. We're the game's one remaining sub-faction outside of Space Marines. Oh, okay, cool. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, this is I don't know, very cool. You also, I guess, you get the additional benefit, right, of having 2 dedicated transports with reactive moves. So you can play really aggressively with your infantry, and then you can always hop them into the rhinos too. So until your opponent deals with rhinos that are potentially smoked and armor of contempted, you're like incredibly difficult to interact with because you can be hopping in and out of those. So your capacity to skirmish in the center is like really is incredible. You're playing Deceptors right now? That's interesting. Deceptors does look fun, but it also looks like it's a bunch of Legionaries in the middle of the table getting blown up. Yeah, Cypher's really good. I don't know if it's surprising to anyone that Cypher's incredible. Given that this combination of characters, basically this combination of characters in every Chaos Space Marine list ever. And that's, I guess, the other place that we put the Chaos Lord in the other chosen unit. You could also, I guess, put them in Legionaries. Although the Legionaries, I think, are probably better in their capacity to just beat up little baby units. Do you do the thing, dudes, where you generate your dude and then he teleports forward when you make your aspiring champion into a Chaos Lord, and then he like ends up halfway across the table because of displacement rules? That does sound pretty spicy. I don't know. All right. Last but certainly not least, chat. Let's look at this orc list. Brian, Seipp, rocking some orcs. Rocking some War Horde. It's fun, but not very good. Yeah, it seems like, I guess, pretty good. It's a little telegraphed, though, right? Because you're like, hey, at any point, I could get a 6-inch charge at a deep strike with this unit of Legionaries. And your opponent's like, okay, I'll screen it, I guess. And you're like, no. My thing. Why? We're rocking Gasco Thraka, a Beast Boss. Double Big Mechs. Already we're off to a strong start. Double Big Mechs. triple war bosses, probably for Monob units. We have Beast Mega Boys, 2 units of 20 boys. Hot diggity damn. We got battle wagons for those bros too. 1 knob unit, 2 mega knobs. Just 1 unit of 2 mega knobs. I guess just for the for Gaskell to jump into. 2 battle wagons, which are holding the boy squads, I imagine. 2 trucks, 2 units of 5 Burna Boys. All right, what is the technology here? These are we are looking at org data sheets that I have not seen in play for 3 years. That's insane. All right, so we have big mechs, which we have to look at now. Okay, good stuff. Which I can't, I think. So they can jump into the boys, looters, or mech guns. What are we jumping into here? We can double attach with the war bosses, I guess. Oh, where did my list go? There it is. And the big mechs give you reroll ranged attack hit rolls of 1. They have a very good ranged weapon, actually. It is only ballistic skill 5, but it is rerolling 1s. Anti-fly 3 devastating. Get fucked. Fucking. It's also 36-inch range. Holy shit. Get fucked, Magnus the Red. You want to take D6 damage like randomly from this fucking guy shooting out on top of a battle wagon? He gives you reroll advance rolls. That's already good. Plus you can move through terrain features. But not... Oh, through models and terrain features. So you can fall back through people, which is kind of cute. And then he has... What are we taking on them? We're taking this drills? Yeah, we're taking the drills, right? So they have 2 3 damage melee attacks. So they, I mean, the actual output of these characters is there. They're expensive and they're highly inconsistent. Low attack volume and 5+ ballistic skill on their cool gun here. But that is a cool ass gun right there. You can like feel the tension in the room increase as soon as you roll that 5+ to hit on the tractor blast though, because you're just like 3+ for devastating. Let's see what we get here, buddy. But that's so interesting. So I think we're largely just like windmill slamming him in for an additional, essentially like a Thunderhammer sort of equivalent, right? This strength 12 AP 3 damage melee attack is not bad, and that definitely sort of shores up the unit's output into a lot of like big heavy targets. And then we're also getting +1 to hit on that thanks to the war boss, and then we're also giving reroll advance rolls, which I imagine is what the deal is with those guys. That is a super interesting inclusion. You would expect 80 points a character for that to be a kind of a hefty investment. He has also a caddy for follow me, I guess. But I guess also like the ability to fall back through people, because one of them is going to be comboed with the cunning but brutal war boss, so you can fall back and charge. So you can like be engaged, fall back like through the engaging unit, and then like charge back in, which is like sort of insane. Gives you like so much flexibility. But for 80 points a character, you're paying 170 points for those? That's as much as another Orc boy squad. We could just get 20 more Orc boys for that much. I guess when it shoots Magnus for D6 damage, you probably aren't. You're pretty excited about it. We then have 2 units of Burna Boys. So these guys are they're just little flamey. They're flamey guys. They're 1 Spana, 4 Burna Boys. They get a rocket launcher or a Mega Blast. I guess we're taking Mega Blastas because they have 3 attacks for D6 damage. So it's another little aggro unit. They get reroll wounds on objectives. So they're basically, oh, they have to be within 6 inches of you, though, which is a little bit awkward. But they're basically another Acolyte hybrid squad. We're just, everyone's slowly morphing into Acolyte hybrids. Acolyte hybrids are like, it's like the carcinogenesis of the 41st millennium. You know, slowly over a long enough period of time, everything turns into crabs, right? But in the 41st millennium, everyone over a long enough period of time turns into crab men with hand flamers. And then we are also... We get an AP2 melee weapon as well. It's okay on the WA turn. You go to 3 attacks at strength 5. With sustained hits, which is okay. Melee control, double reactive moon, fight first would be crazy. Yeah, fight first is a nightmare for this list. This does feel like kind of, yeah, a little bit of a foregone conclusion. Especially with, like, as we just talked about, well, these guys are rocking, like, 10 plus attacks on the characters. Like... I guess it is a little, there is some, okay, so there is some counterplay here, because you can only fight first with either Lucius's unit or against your target, your focus of hatred, right? So the boys' squads cannot be fight firsted against unless Lucius is on the table. Because if they're in the battle wagons, they can't be targeted by focus of hatred.
Flamers were there to clear screens.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that, chat. I think people are in a big way looking for answers to utility, right? And the Bird Boys feel like that to me. Like you never want to be committing 20 boys and 2 characters into kill like 5 jump pack intercessors. So if you can run in, shoot 5 Burner Boys at them, full rerolls, kill 2 guys, charge in, and then stab the rest of them to death, or at least kill enough of them that they're no longer combat effective, then you can trade 60 points for a unit rather than 250. Now, I imagine that's what the Burner Boys are there for. They actually seem really good. That is units I'm surprised I haven't seen that much. Anytime you see that full wound rerolls on objectives, I think the unit is immediately playable. And the fact that they also have a bunch of torrent weapons is kind of sick too. Honestly, is there a universe where there's like just unit like 30 Birdo Boys running around? Like I don't know. I guess the downside is that they don't caddy characters very well because I don't think like anything attaches into them. Pain Boys. You could put Pain Boys in them. Woo! Let's go! We got 3 Power Claw attacks. For 80 points. Blech. But 120 for 30 Burna Boys actually seems like kind of sick. There's no like... I don't think there's any like detachment synergies here, right? Because Dread Mob, they don't get the keywords for Dread Mob. Do they get like Assault? With Cultive Speed? Speed Freaks armies. God, why is... The first round of codexes, this edition was like... They just want to give stupid the keyword everything. It was a little dumb. Beast Snaga only. Yeah, they don't really get any detachment abilities, which I think is probably the downside here. You could, like... No, the Green Tide's only Orc Boys, right? This design ethos is just like pants on head sometimes, I feel like. I don't know. Wish Purgation Squads had rerolls on objectives? Wish Purgation Squads did literally anything. That'd be cool. Wish Purgation Squads didn't have torrent weapons that could no longer use the ability on their data sheet. Those poor guys. They just get the worst of every world. I lost my train of thought there, champ. Yeah, we're talking about Burna Boys. Yeah, I think Burna Boys actually seem sick. That's my hot take of the day. That unit actually seems really good, and I'm surprised this is the first time I've ever read in your data sheet. We got Double Gretchen as well. Knobs for the third war boss to jump into. Trucks, battle wagons. Trucks can carry... Oh yeah, we have Beast Snagas plus the Beast boss. So we have a little bit of anti-vehicle hanging out over there. That's another unit that it's only 185, and you can probably track a vehicle with it. With the beast boss's devastating wounds, plus the beast nagas just like chipping in some damage too. I guess like in the early game, the Emperor's Children Armor of Contempt is going to be a little bit problematic for orcs because they tend to be kind of like middling on their AP values. So power armor plus AOC is really tough for the faction. Again, it's like early 10th edition codexes, and they were just like, hey, everything caps at AP 2, just by the way, and also your like detachments are bad. You're like, oh, cool. I love that. Thank you. We see Custodes going undefeated. We'll take a peek at other undefeated lists, I think, momentarily here, because I think we're done talking about LGT. Any other LGT lists that we want to jump into, chat? We have talked about all the ones on the list here, right? I guess we didn't talk about Thousand Sons, but I imagine it's just Thousand Sons. Wow, 3 Infernal Masters. Incredible. Such a pioneer. Wild. Ahriman on a desk. A Demon Prince. Several units of Rubric Marines. Mobula Vortex Beasts. Double Cultists. 1 Zangor Enlightened. What a time to be alive. Alex Fowler, you're really breaking new ground here today. We could have been playing Magical Chaos Knights, but no, we had to bring 3 Infernal Masters and Rubric Marine squads. All right, champ. Anything else LGT related we want to talk about before we jump in and talk about some other undefeated lists to round out the show this week? There is some other Genestealer cults that did go undefeated at Vevictus. Vetcon Host saw some Adeptus Custodes undefeated. Lawrence Baker actually took down an SN Battle Reports No Retreat 13. Jesus Christ. With another Emperor's Children list, but I imagine it's kind of the same. That's from Tabletop Tactics, by the way. Oh, he was playing like mass Noise Marines. It is Veterans of the Long War, though, so he's basically playing the same composition. I imagine that there was the SN Battle Reports events are always pretty spicy because they usually bring a lot of content creators in to play them, but they always have like kind of bizarre composition rules. There's very old school 40k energy where you're like, okay, you can only play one subfaction. You can only play one codex. If you play this other thing, you have to pay extra points or whatever. And you're just like, okay, man. All right, dude. You got it. You got it, buddy. You do you, fam. All right, we'll jump into some Adeptus Custodes. We got some Custodes in a T5S2 final, by the way, chat. We played Custodes. I played my Norns with Custodes yesterday, and I did go down. I was very sad. I think I played too aggressively. I sort of like took it on the chin a little bit, and he did way more damage than I expected. I took 9 damage on a Norn Assimilator from a Hunter Killer Missile and a Witch Seeker squad and a unit of Wardens shooting me. I was like, huh, okay. An army that keys up Battle Shock only on turn 3 at 3:45 a.m. on a Tuesday. Detachment roll only works if the army roll triggers. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I wish they would revisit the Battle Shock factions because it feels like, I don't know, it like all of them. I don't think, like, I don't want to say that I don't think Chaos Knights are good because I think Chaos Knights are totally fine, and like I think that like Chaos Demons are totally fine, but those armies are largely fine because they also do other things, and Battle Shock literally isn't the only piece of identity they have. Like Chaos Knights just like have really good data sheets, and Chaos Demons are very maneuverable. But it's like the Battle Shock mechanics are typically forgotten in those armies, and it's wild. And also, I think Tyranids are fucking unplayable trash. So, like, yeah. There's a through line there for sure. Yeah, in shooting. if you watch that game, it was pretty wild. I don't think I played it very well, but also the dice were like, they're just out to get me, dude. It was brutal. Yeah, I took 9 damage out of an assimilator in shooting, and I lost a A Norn failed 4 out of 5 shots to Caladius grav tanks. 2 Caladius grav tanks put 4 wounds. To put 5 wounds on him, I think, and he failed 4 saves, which was like coin flippy. But I didn't have the CP'd Armor of Contempt. Oh no, it was through Armor of Contempt. Yeah, it was 4 out of 5, 3-ups. I was like, oh, okay. That's unfortunate. So he took 10 damage from that. He rolled really bad on damage, fortunately for me. But he took like, I guess maybe it was 3 out of 5, 3-ups. I think it was 3 out of 5. And he took 10 damage from that. And then he died entirely to Kyria Draxus's indirect fire weapon. Or her AP0 2-damage weapon. I failed 4 more saves to the AP0 weapon and died. I was like, okay. I'm glad these cost 300 points apiece and only have 18 wounds. This is great. I'm having a great time right now. Yeah, honestly, if you play Emissaries, I think it's better. That game has, like, single-handedly put me off of simulators forever because the lack of invulnerable save is just so fucking atrocious. As soon as your opponent has good AP values, you're like, well, this guy might as well be dead. Which is... it sucks. It sucks a lot. That unit needs to be like 50 points less expensive. They are wildly overcosted. Their damage output's good. Don't get me wrong. Their ability to kill people is strong, but their ability to survive the crackback is not good. And they're not fast enough to get there on their own. Which is it's just a bad unit, like all told. If they were super cheap and they were like 250 points instead of 300 or whatever, then I think you would reconsider them. But oh my god, at their points value right now, they're really bad. Speaking of which, we got a similar list here, which is kind of fun to talk about. There is a huge Custodian Guard squad. There is a Kyria Draxus to go into that Custodian Guard squad. And let me tell you, speaking from experience, that unit rules quite a bit. Quite a bit. We got Double Blade Champions Valerian. Valerian is wildly underplayed, by the way, chat. He gives you Armor of Contempt in melee, and it stacks with all of your other abilities. So we have triple Custodian Warden squads for the 2 friendos to jump into, the 2 Blade Champions. We also have Valerian for the 3rd one. So you're theoretically on the turn that matters. You're 4+ and 4+ feel no pain, -1 to be wounded, -1 AP. So you've stacked defensive mechanics in almost every step of the process for your opponent trying to kill you. Valerian also hits like a fucking truck. He's not quite as good as a Blade Champion, but he has 7 base attacks at Strength 8, which so just like higher than a regular Guardian Spear. So the dude rules. He gets a once per game auto 6. It's not very good because it's only for him. If it was for his unit, I think he would actually be significant. Like he would actually probably be kind of broken. But once his unit dies, assuming that Valerian's still around, which he probably is, then he becomes much more difficult to kill because he gets that once per game auto pass on the save, which is really good. We have a Custodian Guard squad. So this is it is 5 Custodian Guard for Kyria Draxus to jump into. So we get the 4 Guardian Spears for her to hang out with. 2 Caladius Grav Tanks, triple Prosecutors, Witch Seekers, and that's it. There are no Venatari Custodians in this list at all. So we are a little bit front-loaded. We have very little capacity to fight in your opponent's backline, unless, of course, we are deep striking some of the Wardens, which I think might be what's happening here. But yeah, otherwise, pretty normal Custodes stuff. Valerian better than a 3rd Blade Champion? Yeah, Blade Champions feel like they kind of like lose at, like, they just sort of, like, they occupy the same, like, board space, you know what I mean? And it feels like the 3rd one is kind of, like, unnecessary. I don't know. Like, it's good. I don't think you're never like, oh no, I took another Blade Champion, that sucks. But you're like, well, I want 2 Warden squads to stand in this ruin in order to, like, threaten the advancing charge somewhere. And, like, I don't need another. Like, I can't put another one there, if that makes sense. Like, it's you end up with, like, logistical difficulties. But the 20 Custodian Infantry plus characters is it's plus the 2 Caladius Grav Tanks is basically, like, I think kind of the archetype these days. There's some play with like different detachments, whether in Shield Hosts or Talons of the Emperor. But the Caladius Grav Tanks, I think, are so important for the backline shooting. Because a lot of times the infantry pull focus so hard for them, because you usually want to point anti-tank weapons at the Custodians themselves because their defensive profile is so strong. Hard to have las cannons available for the tanks and also the men standing in front of the tanks if the men are as hard to kill as tanks. We also saw some GSC calls from Vevictus, Alex Fiminster running Ascension Host this time, so the OG detachment. An Abominant, Reductus Saboteur, literally no enhancements. Who cares about them? Throw them in the trash. 2 units of Acolyte Hybrid Hand Flamers, 2 units of Neophyte Hybrids. There are no Primuses in this list, by the way. An average squad and Achilles Rejoin. Is this a... Oh, there's 1,000 points. This is an Incursion event. That's not exciting. That's too bad. No wonder there's no enhancements. We didn't have any points for them. Flying Monkey Con had some spicy results. Kitsmith, rockin' Hypercrypt Legion, Hexmark Destroyer, Warden, Royal Warden with Dimensional Overseer, TSK, the big man himself, Canoptic Spider, double Death Marks, double Doomsday Arcs, triple Locust Destroyers, double Monolith. Super straightforward. I think a friend of mine called this the Hyper Thick Legion. I think that might be the name of it, because it's just like 4 big stupid vehicles and a bunch of utility. Or 5, I guess, if you count Silent King, which you probably should. So it's like 5 just like big idiot dummies like teleporting around the table, and then you also have like a ton of utility for it, and it's all buffed by the Canoptic Spider. Very similar to the list we just talked about, but it's a little bit more ranged focused than trying to get use out of the silly goose Tesseract Vault. We're basically just dumping the Tesseract Vault and some utility for double Monolith instead. Teleporting war crimes. Adeptus Mechanicus also went 6-0 at that one too, so they're killing it. Skitari Hunter cohort. Only double Skitari Marshal this time. Cantic Thrallnet and Battlesphere uplink on those. So the same enhancements that we saw from the LGT. Rangers, Vanguard, double Dune Riders, Sterilizers, Raiders, Infiltrators, Ruststalkers, double Disintegrator. So we're getting a little bit of anti-tank shooting out of the Pharamite cannons, and then we're just spamming Ruststalkers and Taraxi, which is an archetype that we've seen before. We have the Sicarian Infiltrators to prevent enemies from blocking your pregame moves. We get a ton of scouting out of the Rangers and the Cerberus Raiders, and then that all follows up by, I guess it is only 20 Sterilizers. It's not the full 30 that you see sometimes, but it is a big unit of 10 and 2 units of 5 that can sort of act as utility and also just like cleanse infantry from the game. And then if your opponent does anything, they just immediately get killed by 1,000 Rust Stalkers just beating the shit out of you. So the amount of board control that this list has is incredible, because the Rust Stalkers threaten like literally to the back edge of your table on turn 2. And you're subsuming all of the board space in front of them. You want to move? Good luck, buddy. Has Imperial Agents been visible anywhere? Not really. Imperial Agents is not really seeing too much competitive play in its codex variety. Obviously, you see assassins and things around, but you don't. The faction itself doesn't see that much play. All right, chats. Anything else we want to take a peek at? I think that's been a good discussion, I think, so far. So we might be looking at ramping up the video in a bit here. Disintegrators, our best anti-tank. Yeah, they seem, I don't know, they seem a little inconsistent, I guess. Let's look at their data sheet. That's sort of been my, I don't know, my like first impression. But I guess now if you're in the Protector Imperative and their +1 ballistic skill, they actually look pretty good. The weird part is that outside of Cantic Thrallnet, which definitely helps, there is like a little bit of a of attention in that detachment regarding your Doctrina choice, because you want to go into the Conqueror Imperative to buff the Rust Stalker so often that you oftentimes don't get too much of a bonus focusing on the ranged profiles in the faction. So there's like it's a weird tension between the two, especially if you're putting the Rust Stalkers in transports. If they're out on the open and then you can target them with Cantics for all that, it's not that big of a deal. But if they're inside a vehicle, it gets awkward. So it's 3 D6 plus 1. It's 3 las cannons. The Ferromite cannon is literally 3 las cannons stapled together. Plus you get a twin-linked missile launcher. So it's like 6 D6 damage gunshots, essentially. It kind of similar offensive profiles. You lose strength out the missile launcher versus the Ferromite, but you gain the fact that the missile launcher is twin-linked. So statistically, it's basically the same. So there's actually a lot of shooting. I think that... Oh, and the Ferromite hits on 2s against monsters or vehicles. If you're in Protect Your Imperative. Okay. You know what, chat? You're right. This data sheet actually rules. Mea culpa. I don't think I had recontextualized these things after the buffs to the faction. That is a lot of really good shooting, actually. Only played Hunter Cohort with predominantly Protector all game. Yeah, it's much different, I think, if you're taking the mass Rust Stalkers. But usually, like, if the Rust Stalkers are in the best position, you could, like, send one out at a time, because you're only spending the advancement charge on one of them anyway. And then you can keep the rest of the army in Protector Imperative. But also, if these things are just, like, 3 shots that hit on 4s and 3 shots that hit on 3s, it's not the end of the world. It's, like, fine. And they also get the cool rapid-fire stubber. Oh, I guess it's a regular stubber. It's not the twin-linked version. That's the Scorpius Dune Riders one. Yeah, this gun is actually pretty good. Plus, it's another 2+A, T10 2+A vehicle. Only AP2 on the disruptors, but it's probably okay. Good stuff, chat. And man, I'm surprised I don't see more Scorpius Disintegrators, to be honest. We see a couple. I guess there's been a couple. But maybe it's just a volume of Adeptus Mechanicus list going undefeated, too. But it's like, I guess they just get overshadowed by Iron Strider Ballistari so often that it's kind of weird. Oh, it's 3 stubbers? Oh, yeah. So it's theoretically 18 stubber shots with sustain. You're selling me harder on this vehicle that I already said I think was good. But now I think it's incredible. You get 18 sustained stubber shots with this fucking guy? Jesus Christ. It's too bad they aren't like Scorpius. They used to have 2 separate datasheets, right? It was the Belarus Energy Cannon and the Ferromite Cannon were like 2 separate things. You could take 6 of them. I just want to take nothing but Scorpius Disintegrators now. Siegler thinks they're the best anti-tank? Cool. Seems good. If you look at the bottle, there's also a cute little robot guy in the turret. Is the inside of the turret modeled? Let's go to the... No, that's not what I wanted to do. Ooh, there's a new like Chaos Chosen guy on Warhammer Community that looks cool from Age of Sigmar. Can we see the sprues? Do they show you sprues? They don't! Oh, no, they do. What have I done? What have I done? No. Is it this guy? This little man right here? That feels like the Stormraven gunships fucking like servitor, like turret servitor. I actually replaced him with a Tech Marine. I think I replaced him with a scout actually because I had one. But like the Stormraven gunship has like a hokey little servitor man inside. What's the optimal way to play Harlequins? Like to play the faction or to play the unit? Because those are two very different questions. The optimal way to play Harlequins, the faction, is like, I think that you just accept that you're an Eldar player and then like buy Vipers and stuff, or buy Warwalkers. The optimal way to play the unit is with your brain, typically. It's a big Cataphront in the turret. Oh, on the Dune Rider? Oh, this is the Dune Rider guy. This little man right here. He's a cute little man's. Look at that little guy. Oh, is it also in the Disintegrator too? Hold up. Wait, the Disintegrator's turret is open? Wait, alright, this is new information to me. I think I have never played a Disintegrator before. Maybe I just never looked at it. I have definitely played against Belarus energy cannons 1,000 times in my... There used to be nothing but Adeptus Mechanicus players in my local area for some reason. Oh my god, it's fucking open in the back, dude. And I think I've just never actually looked at them. There's a servitor inside the turret. What? I thought that this was a little baby Onager Dune Crawler. I had no idea. Because it looks like a little tiny Onager Dune Crawler, right? And so I just thought that it was a little enclosed spot. So like, oh, maybe there's a guy in there. I did not know it was open in the back. What the fuck? What? Admech models are cool. Well, Admech models certainly exist. You know what? That's what I'll say about Adeptus Mechanicus. They definitely are, for sure. They're Adeptus Mechanicus are definitely one of the factions in 40k. That's what I'll say about them conclusively. I like many Adeptus Mechanicus. I like the Onager. The Onager I think is like sick. This is peak Adeptus Mechanicus for me. But the Scorpius, I don't know. Iron Strider Ballistari, no thank you. Adeptus Mechanicus always like, it's the coolest. It's like 40k. Just in general. Admech are the Star Wars of 40k. It's the coolest concept, but in execution, it ends up being very silly. And I think that there are two Adeptus Mechanicus in 40k. There's the one that exists in everyone's head, which is like the Admech from the Adeptus Mechanicus video game, where everyone has like a cool base, like a fucking like synthwave vocoder, and you know everyone knew that the moment they beheld the weakness of their flesh, it disgusted them. And then there's the Adeptus Mechanicus in the actual like canon of 40k, which are like the Admech from Space Marine 2, where they're just like a bunch of goobers who have like no fucking idea what they're doing, and they just like try to fight Tyranids with axes and die. And I feel like everyone wishes that they were the cool ones from the Adeptus Mechanicus video game, but actually what we get is the ones from the Space Marine video game, and that ends up being what the faction is. I saw this little weirdly red panel in my YouTube coded brain, thought that was a play button. I almost clicked on it. Onager too expensive cost-wise? Like, in terms of physical cost or the points value? Because I think I agree with you. Almost either way. They're too expensive. They're like... Have you ever tried to kill this thing, though? It's kind of insane. Also, being a round-based walker is, like, sick. You have to pay to pivot. What a time to be alive. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have the same, like, attack volume. I don't know. It's just like another I think kind of symptom of like the weird. They just want to give everyone a 4+ ballistic skill this edition, so everyone gets like a bad ballistic skill and low attack volume, so they're just like hyper inconsistent all the time. It is big. He is a big boy with only 11 wounds, right? They're like actually really. They like look like they're this big beefy like knight equivalent or like an armature equivalent, but they're actually like little tiny babies. Although, to be fair, 2+ base save and an invuln. They're 4+ invuln, 2+ armor, right? Yeah. So it's like low wounds count, but man, the saving characteristics, holy shit. Also, they give you a 4+ invulnerable save against ranged attacks, which is cool. And they fixed their scuttling walker. Did they do that for anyone else? That's not what soul grinders do, is it? They have exactly the same ability, yeah? Motherfucker. Is that actually the case? Would it be an balanced data slate? Oh man, I'm on a dark mode mod right now, or a dark mode plugin, and it makes PDFs look weird. Does somebody have I don't have the codex like handy right now. Does somebody have the Dune Crawler Scuttling Walker ability? Is that correct in Wahapedia? What does 39k say? Usually, between the two, one of them is correct. Are you fucking with me, chat? The Onager Dune Crawler has a strictly superior version of the same ability that Soul Grinders have. Why? Have I seen their new Phosphor Blaster profile? Oh, the one from the update. 12 shots, strength 6, AP 1, 2 damage. Ignore cover, twin linked. That is actually kind of nutty, yeah. 12 shots twin linked is like insane. What were they previously? Were they like 6 and they doubled it? AP 1 ignore cover is good. That is, yeah. No, that is extremely strong, actually. That's like, I don't know. It doesn't really make a huge amount of difference, but what the fuck, chat? If the Onager Dune Crawler is a strictly better walker than Soul Grinders, do Defilers have that wording? Nope, that's not how you spell that. This is the section of the stream where Trevi looks at different 40k datasheets and it makes himself mad. The Defiler says terrain features. where would that have been updated? Is it in the... It's not in the index FAQ. Oh, I bet there's an Admech FAQ. Codex FAQ and errata would be for Adeptus Mechanicus. Motherfucker. They fucking did it. Are you kidding me, chat? This fucking game sometimes, dude. This is like... This is Eldar Falcon level bullshit. The Onager Dunecrawler Scuttling Walker works on sections of terrain features, and everyone else works on the whole last terrain feature. But they forgot to FAQ it on every other instance of the identical ability. Fucking core rules this shit, dude. USR that. If you're gonna reprint identical abilities on different datasheets, it should do the same thing. I'm gonna fucking explode. My head's gonna blow up. This makes me sad. Now I'm sad. Now I'm sad, chat. Yeah, at least it's on a non-injured Dunecrawler and not something we care about. Also, maybe we give other Titanic units the super heavy walker thing where it can go through walls too. Can we do that while we're at it? I don't know, folks. I don't know. Well, with that, that's a unique and interesting discovery. I think that will probably wrap up this stream. Rules as intended, terrain features people, unhinged with despair. Rules as in... Oh, like the thing, like the people who are like, no, but terrain feature means section of terrain feature. Well, yeah, and it doesn't though. That's not how words work. But okay, I appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, that was a weird and very annoying conversation because it was basically explicitly stated that there was no such thing as a terrain feature section in the original printing. Now, of course, there is because they've added the terminology. But in the original printing, it was explicit that you are either a terrain feature or you are nothing. And the people who are like, "Oh, that's too deep of a reading of the rules," and you're like, "No. It just says that. That's just what it says." The people who are like, "I can move over this little bit of a wall," were like reading the rules to their own benefit, which is a little frustrating, but it is what it is. Yeah, and then people got really mad about it. Crazy, absolutely insane. Acadian's quad can be attached to include up to 29 models. Can it? You can put Acadian command squad, right? And then a regimental attaché unit and like a Ogren bodyguard. But here's the question. Would you do that to Acadian Command Squad, or would you do that to a Death Corps Krieg Squad with a Feel No Pain guy, and then you get a trillion Feel No Pains? So, yeah, the Ogren, the regimental attaché. Let's parse through the rules here real quick. Where do you find all these? All right, here's the regimental attaché, and here is the. Oh, here's the Ogre bodyguard. The part about that like last interaction that kind of sent me is that like I now for the absolutely minuscule level of errors that Wahapedia has, like I now have to disbelieve it because so many abilities are just not consistent over the course of the game. So these guys attach into a command squad. The Ogre Bard attaches into a command squad. Okay. So the attachés are 3 models, so you get 4. So you get a 9 model a command squad, right? And then you add a character on top. So it's 30. Is that right? Unless the command squad's only 4. No, it's 5. If you don't take the heavy weapon. If you take no heavy weapons, which I guess these guys don't get anyway, so it doesn't matter. You could do a 5 model command squad plus an attaché unit plus an Ogren bodyguard guard plus a second commander, a second officer. You could do it with catechins, actually. It wouldn't scout, but you could get like Strachan in there with like fucking a trillion guys. I don't know why you would do that, to be honest, but you could. These guys aren't exactly close combat fiends over here. So I think the final answer is 30, chat. Is the arithmetic there. And it's only one Ogre and Bodyguard, right? We can't do like a bunch of them. One command squad, you cannot have more than one loyal protector attached to it. Okay. Yeah. Barbagon's gone wild. I'll shoot 10d6 plus 50 sustained hits. The classic 10d6 plus 50. No, the worst would be Hearthguard. How many shots do Hearthguard get? If you put 2 judgment tokens on the 30 model infantry brick, you're shooting 10d6 plus 50, sustain 2, hitting on 2s, right? So you average 117% of your original shots. So you shoot an average of 85 times 1.17, or give or take. So you average 100 hits into the target. That's what you're gonna do. And I think that you're contractually obligated, if you are playing the Leagues of Votan, to windmill slam the sustain 2 stratagem, even though you almost certainly do not need it to kill 30 guardsmen. You shoot 100 shots. You shoot 100 times. Really want to put the 10 on the table. There's some Drew Salzborn is a local to me right now. Swears by the 10 mans. He swears by the 10 mans. And I know there's like, it's not, I think, quite as prevalent right now, but there is occasionally, like, there are these like sort of pushes to these infantry metas where you're running like a Curse Cultist. We talked about a Curse Cultist a while ago, but you're also taking like these 20-man infantry bricks and stuff. And the 10-man grenade launcher team just like the solution. You just die. The hell, we just put that unit on the table. I wrap it in grass, and I kill them all instantly. They're all dead. Goodbye. So see you later. And yeah, it definitely helps, I think. Just throw dice at the enemy. You're playing like old school army man, where you just throw dice at the table, and the models that it knocks over are killed. And I think that's the correct way to play 40k anyway. But anyway, chat, I think we're gonna call the stream there. I think it's been a pretty good discussion. Let me know, first of all, to the people who are watching right now, let me know how you have enjoyed the stream, and also let me know and the time frame, because I can stream at a different time on Mondays if there are more people who are interested in that. So if you're sort of like US East and you want to watch it at a slightly later time, we could push it a couple hours. I will probably have trouble waking up if we push it too early in the morning, but yeah, I hope people like the time frame. And otherwise, if we could make any changes to the format, but I think that this is a pretty good way to recap the week rather than a whole ass video, because right now, obviously, I guess like this LGT has been kind of spicy, but previously, man, it was all sisters and thousand suns for a million years. Joe Mark watching from Germany, so Tactical Tuesday was always a little late. Oh, okay, fair enough. Oh, maybe that's a sign we should push Tactical Tuesday earlier. We could do early Tactical Tuesday as well. But yeah, this has been the first time. Well, we gotta settle on a name too. I like this weekend in Warhammer or something. Warhammer weekend. This weekend's Warhammer. That's my favorite so far. But I don't know. We'll figure it out, and then I'll get a logo done, and we'll make it a whole production. It'll be great. But anyway, thanks everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow for Tactical Tuesday, the regular Tactical Tuesday. I've also got a huge video. I'm still waiting on the sponsor to okay the integration for that video, but I have a huge video I'm working on this week. We're doing a demon faction breakdown. Theoretically, that should be out this week, but it's like an hour long. It should be good. And stay tuned to Tactical Tyrannosaurus as well, because we're getting that the next big recap going on down there, which should be recording this week as well. So that'll be fun times. But yeah, cheers everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.